Welcome back. So here we are in the final stages of learning about cartridge development, and we will discuss this UI controls. So in the past we talked about sort of general what cartridge development is. We talked about creating recipes. We talked about setting performance data, and we talked about letter testing, which is generating letter test reports, groups, and what relationships they build between a recipe, components, and firearms. In this tutorial, we'll talk about some of the management features and what to do, what not to do, and what to avoid doing. So before we jump into cartridge development, we're going to go into rifles and we're going to delete this Henry rifle, which has recipes associated with it. And we will fail because we'll be told that there are recipes associated with it. And we can actually do the same for cases. And once again, we'll be told that no, you can't do that because there are recipes associated with it. And we can actually see the history of a particular case. So we can go to this recipe and we can delete this recipe. However, if we do that, we will start resetting the relationships. So for instance, we'll delete one of them, so we'll go into this group, and we'll also open a firearms window just to demonstrate and show that we have 40 rounds against the rifle. And one of those 40, a batch of 10, is associated with these recipes. So if I delete one, we will actually see that this firearm, if we refresh the screen, will move down to 30. And we typically want to avoid doing that. We generally don't want to impact these relationships. We don't want to rewind firearms history or case history or, let's say, even powder usage history, because this number will um, reset to whichever state it was at before a particular recipe was created, before performance data was set. So we don't want to delete these recipes. However, we sometimes just don't want to keep them either. They're not interesting. They haven't shot well, whatever. So to start off with, we have this favorite. So if this particular recipe shot well, we can actually make it a favorite. We can go and set some other recipes to favorites, and we can only view, we can set a view to only view our favorite recipes or everything. Likewise, we can delete a recipe, and we just talked about it, so we want to really avoid doing that. We can lock a recipe, and typically you do that for a favorite. So saying, okay, well, I found a really good load. I'm going to use this as a base to clone future ammo, future manufacturing, if you will. But I can still view this. I just can't edit it. And the rest, well, I'm actually not interested in this one. So let's say we have this group here. One's a favorite, one shot really well, and two didn't. One we deleted, the other one we kept. So what do we do? Well, we can delete this. We'll rewind the history on the firearm and components. We definitely don't want to do that. So what we can do is we can archive it. And now we've archived it. We can't clone it. We can't do anything unless we restore the recipe. So we don't want to restore that. We still want to archive it. And we only have the capability to view and generate reports, but we don't actually have the capability of editing or cloning from it. And so that's the difference. That's the difference between locking, because it's a favorite. We want to use it as a template to build more ammo based on this recipe and keep track of our components. Or we want to archive something because we don't want to use it again, but we want to maintain our relationships between the recipe and all other modules. And that's a very important difference, which I thought deserves its own tutorial and its own mention. So if we go back, or actually we were on this screen, we can actually see the different states. And we can see view favorites, locked. We don't want to unlock them. We just want to clone it to make new recipes, because we're viewing favorite view. We can't see the cloned recipe, but if we go back to full view, we'll see that clone has been created. And in the clone, as always, we reset charge weight, we reset cartridges loaded so it doesn't impact our components at first, and also for safety so we don't get complacent. And that's about it for this sort of user interface controls in the cartridge development. Thank you.